Welcome back to the Scared Stiff Podcast. This is your host, Mike, and my co-host, Scott. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm a little low on energy.
Feel that?
Yeah, we're doing this early in the morning. We don't really do usually this early.
Yeah,
so.
we're usually doing it at like 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon.
That's not true. That's not
usually
fucking
5
true either. We
5
do
or
it like
6.
6 o'clock usually. Well
Yeah.
after our day is mostly done through.
And we're usually doing this till 9:30 because
Yeah.
we talk too much. Do you want to introduce the movie today?
Today's film is Nightbreed, the director's cut by Clive Barker. I mentioned before in the last episode I would have liked to watch the theatrical version, and it seems like the biggest problem for the consensus is that a lot of storytelling and character motives are kind of gone in the theatrical version, and I figured, nah, I'm not watching it then. Everyone talks about how a director's cut is the complete version of a film, and obviously it would be. Why would the director not want certain scenes in there? But I really would have a hard time watching the director's cut first and then going back and watching the theatrical. So it felt very minute to even consider that after going through this 2-hour movie, and it felt like a long form, like epic, and I don't want to just take that away by watching a much more inferior version of the film.
Yeah, if we started with the theatrical cut and went to the director's cut, that'd be one thing, but we pretty much resolved that it was going to be the director's cut first, and I could not imagine watching, because it's like, I think like 20 minutes shorter. I could not imagine watching that movie.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes shorter, but there's like over 40 minutes of changed scenes.
Yeah, because they changed shit.
Because a lot of the scenes, a lot of what happens is different, because they had the scenes they wanted to go in the film, but the studio said, hey, you have to change this, that can't be the ending or whatever. Like the ending of the film is totally different.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's what I heard. So.
There's actually a third cut. It's called the Cabal cut.
Well, the Cabal cut is
a work print.
It's mostly the director's cut though.
Yeah, but it's 145 minutes, so it's 2 hours and 20 minutes, so it's longer.
Yeah, but there's not much more into it. Like the Cabal cut came out before the director's cut.
Yeah, I just know it's basically, I think, the work print version of the movie. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people watch that, but I couldn't really find it anywhere, so I didn't watch that. I watched the director's cut on Shudder. This movie's kind of wild, I'm not gonna lie. And I went through a lot of emotions and mind spaces while watching it, because at first I thought I had this movie nailed down. I knew what this movie was about, and then there's a certain point where the movie kind of turns and completely changes to a different kind of film. At that point, that's when I started to be like, I don't know how I feel about this movie. It kind of reminded me of how I felt while I was watching Suspiria, where I was just kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this movie as I'm watching it.
You mean like the ending? How like
no, like the, I would say probably,
because I think it follows through with its meaning, and like it's.
No, I more so mean tonally, like the type of movie, because it goes from this beautiful fantasy horror movie. The finale is like a fucking 80s action movie almost. It's kind of crazy having watched other Clive Barker movies, because it doesn't really feel like that nearly.
I think it feels a lot like 2 for Hellraiser.
I haven't seen Hellraiser 2 yet. When I got to the ending, it's just like explosions left and right, people lighting flamethrowers and fucking gunning down Nightbreed monsters, and fucking it got really crazy. Not in a bad way necessarily. It's just it felt very different from the way that the first, I'd say, act and a half was plotted out. It just felt kind of more like a high octane movie than it did this kind of beautiful little horror fantasy film. Actually, really what the movie ends up being is kind of an epic romance, and that's my favorite part about the movie is the romance between the main protagonists, and how far they'll go for each other. I really loved a lot of that stuff. I like the characters a lot.
There is the aspect of it being like an epic fantasy romance. I think I like the connection between the two, but there's a lot, and I'm not putting it into the movie. It's very obvious. There's a lot of like homoerotic like tendencies in the film, specifically towards the main character.
Yep.
And I think that's the only real tonal clash with the film, because there is a lot of that homoerotic tendencies, and there's a lot of like the one of the things they have when he's on the drugs in the first part of the movie is like he shows visual disgust of watching himself have sex with his girlfriend. And like it's hard to make that scene be in the same movie where they're supposed to end up together as this big fucking like king and queen of this fantasy realm. It's like this is
my thing is more so like, is it that he's disgusted about watching him and his girlfriend have sex, or is it like the visual effect kind of that they implement that's bothering him. Like I can't really tell if it's one or the other because they show. I don't know if what they're showing us is literally what he's seeing, but if I saw that, I'd be pretty disgusted too because my eyes would be melting.
I don't know if it's played out for that reason.
I have no idea.
But it's one of many things that they definitely showcase the relationship between the psychiatrist and him to almost be very much like a fucking forceful, unnatural relationship.
A power fantasy between two men.
Very big power fantasy. And I like all these aspects of the movie. I think they all work very well. I just think it's tough to build it being like a big epic romance between the two, and it really showcases him being so unsure of the romance in the first place. And it's like, oh yeah, like I can't be with you because of this or because of that. So it makes it kind of weird by the ending, I feel.
Well, I think that mostly runs into how he gets to Midian and he thinks that this is just what Midian is, and he can't walk both lines. So he's telling her like, I can't be with you because I'm now in Midian. But once he starts to rebel, then he realizes that he can't have his love, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, and they give a lot of reason to that. But by the end of the film, when it's like, oh, I'm gonna go with you, and he's like, well, no, you're not. Like,
kind of can't.
You can't do that. She's like, well, why don't I become one of you? And he's like, no. I mean, there's not a real logical conclusion as to why he can't make her that, besides he doesn't want to take that from her. Like,
I feel like that's pretty much it. It's just that he doesn't want to have to kill her.
Yeah.
He's killing her.
But I don't know. I feel like there's so many reasons to go more into it. I really feel like as the film goes along, the relationship becomes more like she is dependent on the idea of him, and he's trying to become more of an individual, and she feels like she's holding him back, and that the main character kind of showcases that. So the end of it kind of contradicts how I feel like he's being built throughout the film. I also don't hate it. Like, it's just very much a romance that needs adjusting as it develops on.
Yeah, I didn't really feel any of that. I felt more of he felt this enormous weight on him going to Midian, and also this level of embarrassment of his disfigurement now, and how it's changed him visually, and he feels like a monster, and he doesn't want her to see him that way, so he's pushing her away. Same way some people do with their depression or anxiety. They push away the people that they love most because that's just what their mind tells them to do. And I kind of equated it to that. So when they get to the end, he wants to be with her, but to me, he's afraid to put her in the same position that he's in because he wants her to have a life. But what he's not understanding when she's talking to him is she doesn't want to have a life if it's not with him. So she forces it on him, which I will say kind of made me really gasp while I was watching it, because she fucking just absolutely massacred her abdomen with that knife. I wasn't expecting it. I thought that that something else was going to happen, but when she just jams herself with that knife, I actually gasped and sat up in my chair. But by the end, I really like how that romance wraps up a lot. It feels like there's supposed to be more to this. Like there was supposed to be like a Nightbreed 2. I don't know if this was supposed to be a franchise.
It's based on a book that Clive Barker wrote called Cabal.
Yeah, Cabal. I don't know if there's a second book or anything, but it feels like it was left with more story to tell because all the Nightbreed monsters were all displaced, the ones that were still alive, and it seemed like they were waiting to continue the story with Cabal and his love.
I don't know how it ends in the actual theatrical version, because
I have no idea.
If that's a definitive end, it makes sense as to why there would never be a sequel. I mean, it didn't really make money either.
Yeah, it bombed commercially and critically.
I mean, it wasn't going to get a sequel, but
yeah, it seemed like they were kind of teasing out, saying like, "Oh, this could be my next franchise."
He could 100% make a sequel like it nowadays. It's got such a cult following, and it's super popular since the director's cut came out. People are really into the movie, and I think it'd be a cool idea. I think it's something you could flesh out and do now. I don't know if you'd try to do it 30 years in the future or whatever. I mean, I have problems with some of the framing of the romance in the movie, but I love the movie. Like, I think it's the biggest shock I've witnessed as a first-time watch as of late. Like, I wouldn't even say, like, I had a good time. I'd say I genuinely think it's one of my favorite films of the era. Especially because it came out in 1990. That this could be my favorite film of the 90s. Because it's so fucking radical.
What's a low bar for you?
Jurassic Park came out in the 90s.
Oh, movies in general.
Yeah, I think it's just a fantastic.
I was thinking horror movies because we bitched about we bitched together about 90s movies.
Yeah,
90s horror
I mean,
movies.
I don't love 90s horror films. I mean, there's some good ones, but I'd say horror films, Nightbreed it has the highest scope. It has the heaviest themes that when you watch the movie nowadays, you shouldn't be able to relegate it to things happening currently. You shouldn't be. But it's almost so in your face about the things that are happening that I just couldn't believe, like, why the fuck is this so topical? Why is it more topical now than when it came out?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, maybe saying more is a bit disrespectful because, you know, that movie came out in 1990. The issues they're hitting on at that time period are obviously a little bit different. You know, I know race relations were at an all-time high right in that era of the 90s because the Rodney King thing happened, like, I think 3 or 4 years after that movie came out.
Yeah.
So it definitely hits on... Obviously, the Nightbreed is an ambiguity of people that are being put down. The Nightbreed are like the ambiguity of the X-Men or anything else.
Yeah. It's like, also coming out post, you know, the whole AIDS.
Oh, especially. I mean,
so
a lot
it's
of
hitting
that.
on that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciated that stuff about the movie. I like that. I always like it when, I mean, it's Clive Barker, so no surprise. But yeah. I like it when horror movies have more on their mind than just entertainment. Not that I have a problem with horror movies that are just entertaining. I mean, we just got done with the whole Friday the 13th series.
Yeah.
So it's fine when they do that. It's just, it is fun to kind of dissect movies. And I like the fact that this is a movie that has a lot more on its mind than just look at these makeup effects.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call it subtle for the ending.
No.
The ending isn't subtle. I'd say a lot of the themes and elements in the first 2 acts can be subtle. Yeah. And as the film builds up, it becomes more in your face. I don't think it's out of left field, per se.
Yeah, like I didn't pick up the homoerotic stuff between Cabal and... I'm blanking on the name of the doctor. I know it's played by David Cronenberg.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on all that stuff, but once you pointed it out, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what?
I think it's just... The coolest thing about really a lot of horror films is there really is way more homoerotic tendencies than you really think about. By the way, like a lot of the male actors talk to each other. But in that one, I wasn't gonna say like, you know, it's whatever. But they had that phone call together. That phone call made me believe that like whatever happens next, I feel like when they talk about this doctor, like he fucking like sexually assaulted him because like the way he's saying like, come over tomorrow, and he's like, I really can't. Like he's like, no, I'll see you here tomorrow. It's like that's like really unsettling about the power dynamic they're already setting up. Like, this is really already nerve-wracking. What the fuck's gonna happen next?
Yeah, it makes you think, like, what was he gonna do if Boone didn't show up?
Yeah, like, it just sets in a, like...
Would he be the next victim?
Like, the way he sets it up, though, it seems like they already have a previously established relationship, but we don't know anything about it, so the idea of what that relationship is like, what the fuck? How can you talk to someone like that off the get-go and be the psychologist? So it's just very, very weary off the get-go.
I'll say one thing, at least to me. I mean, obviously because we know he's the bad guy, but I would say, as a person looking in, if that fucker talked to me, I would be like, you are definitely a sociopath. You're definitely gonna kill somebody tonight because he's laying it on very thick as far as his, you know. He has like zero emotion for a lot of it, unless he has the mask on. Pretty much he has like zero emotion, so it's a second face for him to hide himself from, and that shit's fucking nuts. But also at the same time I can see how the cops wouldn't, because he just seems very calm to them. But man, I would not want that motherfucker taking out the slasher part of it completely. I wouldn't want that guy as my psychiatrist. He's terrifying.
It is funny with all the different interactions that character has with a lot of characters in the film.
Yeah.
Who would you say is your favorite character in this film? Because there's a lot of characters by the end of the movie.
Oh man, I can't remember his name. It's the guy who
carves his face.
Yeah, I love him.
So I think it's like Narcissi or something like that, because a lot of the names are obviously based around like not just like all mythology and everything, but it's because I think it's like not. It's obviously not Narcissus. It's not the exact translation.
Yeah.
But I think it's something close to it. He is funny. When you first get introduced to him, you're like, oh, this dude's...
Because he's just out of his mind at first.
Yeah, I'm like, please don't be in this film for too long, man. But by the end of the movie,
When he comes back,
He's great.
he's really funny. I really like him a lot, and he's also like one of those. He's pretty much a perfect like pal character for this kind of a movie. I also really like what again? Like I don't know why I'm forgetting her name, but it's the lady who walks into the police station buck ass naked. Her little baby Babette.
Dude,
I don't know why I'm
I
blanking
know
on
her
the
name. Fuck.
I really like that character.
She's
I like
really
how
good.
I really appreciate her like motherly presence and how she like really protects, but like really cares about Babette and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of leads the main girl into this world and kind of shows her it and kind of takes her under her wing and kind of, makes it a little bit easier for her when other things are kind of being really fucking scary. Yeah, I really like her too. And obviously I like the psychiatrist just because he's insane. Absolutely insane.
I love that there's so many antagonists in the film.
Yes.
Directly antagonistic towards just Cabal. Like, so many of it comes straight to him. Obviously the psychiatrist, obviously the racist sheriff, but like...
honestly, the whole fucking police department in that area.
They're so fucking bad.
I mean, when they show you that flashback of the whole, the Black Hoods, which it's KKK, let's be real. Because, I mean, I don't think they actually come out and say it, but that was just how this area was, and it just has continued, and they just went underground and hid from them. But it's never stopped. So I find that really it's just like continuous systemic racism. Continuous, just like these people have to literally hide to live and build these like shanty towns underground to survive. But yeah, the whole police station, they're fucking cunts.
Oh, they're terrible. I mean, there's also the fact there's the antagonistic Nightbreed guy, who I think is awesome
the guy
in
with
the movie.
The guy with the tail,
Tails.
Tentacle
heads, yeah.
Yeah, the first guy that Boone fucks, he fucks Boone up. He's the guy who turns him into a Nightbreed, pretty much. He's really cool. I actually spent the whole time trying to figure out who Doug Bradley was.
I know who
he was. He's the old guy. He's the old guy. But with the like set like the like 8 eyes on his face. Those are eyes. I really like how he was just like this elderly man.
Yeah, the old.
Everyone's got powers. Yeah, everyone's got powers, but we don't know what his is. But then he has like 8 eyes, and we're like, oh, he sees everything.
Wisdom.
He sees everything. Would you call Baphomet a antagonist? And then no.
If they played it up more about his will being against that of the people, sure. But by the end of the film, after he goes to speak to Baphomet, it just seems like he understands him, and he has to go do his bidding and do his will as well.
Yeah.
So he's not an antagonist.
He's like Moses.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off like it almost be like he's opposing the religion and switching it and creating a new version of it. But at the end, it's not really that. I think the coolest swerve in the movie is that he's not a savior by the end of the film. He destroyed everything. And like, it's not like, oh, I have to do this or whatever because everyone follows me. It's literally a punishment. He calls it as a punishment because of his actions. It's my job and my duty to start anew.
But also, I think that the movie also kind of argues that while he did tear down Midian,
it was inevitable.
Not even just that it was inevitable, but Cabal came in and pretty much forced these people to really live again.
Yeah.
They've been hiding for so long. They really aren't living. And they forced them to fight for their life and to not be trapped underground.
Which pretty much
most of them don't. Most of them don't. They all fucking die. But a decent chunk of them get out. And as sad as it is that a lot of them died, the ones that lived have a potential to have a better life, possibly.
I think it's good to not paint people like that as just
perfect
protagonist, because regardless or not of like changing the path of how the movie is going to play out or how these characters are going to go towards the future, he's still pretty solely responsible for the deaths of like a large majority.
100%. So, it doesn't condone that action, but it does have kind of a silver lining.
It does have a silver lining. I just think it's nice that the film says like he isn't really the one who's going to fix everything. Like, he has to destroy it, and it's good to acknowledge the faults of it before saying, hey, we are going to follow him, but like, is it really like, what choice do we have?
Damn, bro, hot take. Thor Ragnarok stole from Nightbreed, bro?
I don't fucking know. I didn't watch it.
You're better off. No, the whole thing is they use Surtur to destroy Asgard to begin anew. It's kind of similar. It has no relation. It's just,
I mean, that is just a lot of,
I don't like that movie.
A lot of theming to most like biblical type films.
Yeah.
Like, to create something new, you have to destroy the old.
I mean, the whole idea of Ragnarok is destruction and all that shit, so it really isn't. I just think it's funny.
I think another neat thing about the movie is just when he first gets to Midian, it is terrifying. Like, I remember when he first got there and he's being chased and the way scenes are framed, I'm like, this is genuinely fucking frightening. Like, if you're in his shoes, that's terrifying.
It's scary, but there is one moment that's really funny.
Which one?
It's when he tells the guy, he's like, I killed people. I killed like 17 people or whatever, however many people killed. He's like, he lied to you, you idiot.
Yeah.
He fucking lied to you, you idiot. That's really funny.
What a swerve, too. Like, the movie just, as it's picking up its pace, so much shit happens. You're like, what the fuck, man? Like, there's no way after that scene.
I definitely can't call this a slow movie.
Yeah, no. Immediately after that scene, he fucking narrowly escapes. And he gets fucking gunned down. And it's like, there's no way I would expect that to happen.
Yeah, when that happened, I was just like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it's like...
wow, that's a real short movie. When he gets off the slab, I'm like, okay, he's running buck-ass naked to fucking Midian now. Wild. Also, I don't know if I will go so far as to say that this movie would not be nearly as good without it, but god damn does Danny Elfman's score really fit this movie.
Yeah.
It's so good. For the tone of this movie, it is absolutely perfect. There was a couple of moments where I was like, oh, this is almost Burton-esque, but it's not Burton-esque. It's just Danny Elfman. I think the
opening's Burton-esque.
A little bit. Some of the camera work, especially like
to be fair,
when he's driving to Midian and they have the camera flying above him, it kind of reminded me a little bit of stuff like from Beetlejuice or something. But that might also have more to do with the fact that Danny Elfman is doing the score, and I typically associate Danny Elfman with him.
I don't know if this is 100% correct, but I remember reading about it, is that he didn't have a whole finalized score for the movie. He didn't have everything scored out. So when they made the director's cut, whoever's in charge of like the new like cut to it, they went back to Danny Elfman to get more score towards it.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty good. Because I'd be afraid
if it's true. I can't back up that claim, but I'm pretty sure I read that.
It'd be suck if it would be like longer and they had to use like tent music to finish it, or like music, because movies have done that before where they'll kind of cheat and they'll put some music that kind of sounds like the score, but it's actually stuff from other films, possibly by the same composer. But I think they did that for Alien.
Friday did that.
I think they did that for Alien.
For Part 7.
Yeah.
Part 7 is mostly music comprised from Manfredini from other Friday entries. Then they have somebody else to do the fill-ins. And then that guy is the dude who did Part 8 afterwards. Yeah,
I think the, like for Alien, Jerry Goldsmith did like an entire score, and then they kind of just didn't go with it, and they did other shit. So when they screened it, it had tent music instead, I think. That's what I heard from the documentary on the disc. Like, that's fucking nuts. That's actually nuts. You paid this man to score your movie, and you didn't even you didn't even put the score in the movie, and you use other people's music? Weird. But yeah, I think Danny Elfman's score for this is dope. It really does set the mood for that kind of, when I think of Danny Elfman, I think of, not just, creepy, gothic or horror imagery, but also fantastical imagery.
Well, I think when Danny Elfman does music for any type of film, it usually fits to a fantastic world that is supposed to be somewhat grounded. It can't be too crazy usually. There has to be some elements of reality to it, and that's kind of how he sinks in the best to these type of films. Yeah,
this kind of reminded me, the score for this kind of reminded me of like a little bit of like Creepshow, and
in what way?
It's more so the choral in the background, because if you listen to the Creepshow theme song, you can hear these kinds of like choral backgrounds that really gave me Creepshow vibes. But also in some of the more like beautiful moments, I had almost like a Batman-y kind of feeling for some of it. Some of the more epic moments felt scored more like a Batman movie. Not like to the exact degree, but it reminded me a lot of some of the tracks from Batman or Batman Returns.
I mean, this is done during his prime. I mean, it came out right after Batman.
Right before Batman Returns.
Yeah, 2 years before Returns.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, after...
Edward Scissorhands would be close to that too, 95 or something.
94 or 95.
Yeah.
So this is during his like peak period before, like when he blew up as a composer. I mean, when you really think about, you have Danny Elfman doing the composition for the music, you have Clive Barker directing it, and writing it. Yeah, and you have all of these new elements for a world that's untapped, ready to be like fleshed out. Like, it fucking sucks this version isn't the version that was in theaters.
Yeah.
If this was the version that came out in theaters, there would have been multiple. There definitely would have been.
Yeah, I have to feel like it's one of those situations where the studio looked at the cut and said, yeah, but it's too long, and studios, it's like general audiences are too fucking dumb to watch a movie that's over fucking 90 minutes, so you gotta cut this down, buddy.
And I remember seeing, when you watch the movie, you feel like this movie costs fucking money. Like,
oh yeah,
there's so much shit in it. I remember looking at the price for it. It's not that crazy for how much it cost. Like,
yeah, but the question is, how much was it? How much is it with inflation?
That's the thing, that with inflation, like, it's not that ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
I think it was 11 million. Yeah, it's 11 million for a budget, and it's like, oh, 11 million for, like, you know, that's how much the new Halloween costs. But still, the stuff they do in this film for 11 million dollars is wild. He's able to get a lot done. There's so much makeup effects, so much effects.
Well, remember, like, Clive Barker, when he put out Hellraiser and all this stuff, everyone's like, Clive Barker's the next master of horror, the next John Carpenter, the next Wes Craven. You know, after stuff like Hellraiser, he was getting a lot of attention, so I would have to assume, because he made Hellraiser for shoestring.
Well, Hellraiser's such an easy film to do. It's there's like 2 sets. Like,
but the makeup effects were pretty complicated for the price that they paid for it. And because of how successful that was, you know, generally speaking, if you do a good job, then you usually get more money. And I feel like they handed them a decent price tag for this movie, and then it didn't do well. So, and it's the studio's fault, probably, I would say.
Oh, 100%. I mean, because most of it came down to test screenings, and they just kept fucking with things after the test screenings.
I hate test screenings.
Yeah, test screenings are fucking stupid. You shouldn't have a test screening for most films.
I would say, like, release your movie.
If you're releasing a blockbuster, and as a studio, you want to make sure that blockbuster is gonna do bang up jobs. I get it, but it just seems so redundant to change the vision of a film after a test screening, because, I don't know, the film going into a test screening should most likely be the film that is intended to go out. Obviously, test screenings do have their positives. Like, you wouldn't have gotten Halloween if you didn't have a test screening saying, this sucks, there's no music, and then he's like, I'll make a fucking banger score. Yeah. So there's always positives to everything, but I can't think of how many directors have their vision completely halted because some fucking dumbass in a test screen was like, I don't know, I don't fucking get it.
Well, like, also, the way that they do test screenings, you know, especially back then, a lot of people got brought to test screenings. It's like, these movies weren't for them.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, like, they get some fucking soccer mom off the street and bring them in to watch a movie like this. Like, this isn't for them. This is specifically for genre fans. And, you know, you can't always have movies that appeal to everybody. And I think that the problem is that that's why movies get so kind of bogged down in homogeny, and they get really dull, is because they're trying their hardest to appeal to the widest possible demographic to get the most money they possibly can, when if you actually targeted it at the audience that it was supposed to be, and you released the film the way it was supposed to be. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have any kind of, you know, studio interference or / you know, cooperation, because that's kind of how the business works. You have to, like, they put up the money, they're gonna have to, it's a collaborative effort. You gotta work with people, but there's also points where the studio oversteps their boundaries a lot. Yeah. And this is one of those. If they release this movie, the full 2-hour version of it, I mean, I can't speak for the Kabal cut, but the full 2-hour version of this would have made much more money. I think it would have made much more money. It would have gotten much better reviews for sure. And I think that we probably would have had a lot more people hailing this as a great movie that just didn't, because they never saw it because they heard it was terrible and they skipped it.
Well, the biggest thing is, like, if I ask somebody, oh, how do you feel about Nightbreed? It doesn't matter what Shudder has on their fucking streaming service or what anybody else is showing. Like, they don't care about, like, the director's cut isn't the version that everyone has seen. Like, yeah, if I go on fucking Wikipedia and I say, oh, what's the reception to Nightbreed, it's not gonna be the reception of the director's cut, it's gonna be the original film. Like, you can't change the fact that that film, no matter what it's, how much you edited it now, how much you've changed now, the first instance of how you saw this movie is always gonna be put in as, this is what it is now. We live in an entirely different age than it was 20 years ago. Like, a director's cut of a movie that could come out now can be perceived as the film. Zack Snyder's Justice League changed the ballpark for how we're viewing films.
Even the same thing with the Ultimate Cut for Batman v Superman.
Yeah, I mean, with Justice League, everybody unanimously will rank them as two different films.
Yes.
The original and Zack Snyder's.
Because they're completely different movies.
But who's doing that for other films? Nightbreed and the theatrical version are not the same movie because of so many things are fundamentally different.
Because it's sadly not as high profile. They're not
Yes.
gonna even discuss it.
It's just wild to think about how much we as a society are now getting behind the idea of directors making their vision be known. And it's a great thing. It really is awesome. I think people are getting a little too fucking on
Some
the
people are
offense about
cancerous
what
about
they
it.
want, even though, everybody should have to see the director's final vision. But in the end of the day, it's not a fucking war. Like, it is what it is.
Yes,
But
I agree.
it is cool to see that, like, we're living in an age where realistically film is dying. Like the attachment for viewers going to see films in theaters and like digesting that material and seeing it in new and crazy different ways, that interest is weary for most general audiences. But for the passionate fans that still love that shit, like, their passion is stronger now than ever. So
Yeah.
It's cool. And it makes me believe that, like, I mean, horror fans and horror movies are already, like, it's a cult classic. Everything that's big that isn't big by a mainstream audience, they're all cult classics. It's already a small, marginalized group about how you look at films versus how fucking film fans look at films. We all love fucking great dramas, fucking eccentric comedies, shit like that. But if you talk to a film fan that doesn't like horror, your opinion means fucking nothing because you watch some fucking gory films. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, buddy. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of fun talking to people about horror that don't watch horror, because they'll be sitting there and be like, oh, what's one of your favorite movies? And I'll drop, I don't know, Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, because I always talk about Halloween. And they'll be like, oh, I mean, like, is that really, like a great movie though? Like, it's just just like a slasher movie, right? Like, no. I mean, I don't usually flex on Rotten Tomatoes, but like it's one of the higher rated horror movies, especially of the 80s. But
I mean,
you just gotta, if you watch the movie, like, treat horror just like any other fucking genre, and you will see why these are movies that should be more respected than they are. I picked one that was pretty well respected by most people, to be fair.
yes.
But if I showed them this, they'd be like, oh, what the fuck is this?
Well, the biggest thing, it's like, it's hard to really, from my point of view, respect certain genres and not respect horror, because fundamentally horror has to push so many buttons about how it can be perceived or what you can do with it. Budget plays into a lot of things like action films, but budget will play in way more to a horror film than almost any other genre. I mean, the only thing that's gonna affect your fucking budget for a drama is, did you cast fucking Daniel Craig in the new Knives Out #2? Like, that's gonna cost a lot of the fucking money, buddy. But for most dramas, as long as you have good actors and you have a small set that's contained, which like most dramas are, it doesn't change that much. Like, the budget doesn't affect the overarching movie. Horror, the budget can affect so many vastly different things.
It's kind of funny though, because in some of these like action films, I would say like, oh man, you gotta have a decent budget, a healthy budget, so you can get some pretty decently scoped action sequence out of it. It's kind of funny. Sometimes lower budget horror is the best stuff.
The coolest thing about low budget horror is that, like, it reminds you it still like exists. Like, the stuff that you liked from like the 80s or 90s, you can still find it. It's just you gotta not look in a studio, because people are there's still a lot of passionate filmmakers that don't have the fucking budget that you wish they did, but they showcase like, hey, we're still doing it. It's like, dude, honestly, thanks. That's why, I mean, I loved watching Nightbreed more than anything. Cool, going back to a film from the 90s by a director that is always putting his all into everything and getting a huge epic out of it. It's like, it's another one that can be added to the list of just these fantastic films from a perfect era of developing ideas.
That's kind of the amazing thing too, because it's just like we like low budget horror movie here on the podcast, but it feels like it's almost kind of rare sometimes to watch a movie like this. Isn't by our standards, I guess, today. I mean, I don't know how much 11 million and current
With inflation.
climate is. But for this movie, especially even if that is kind of still low budget, this is a big movie. Like, it's big. It's got a lot of ideas. It's got a lot of makeup effects. And I mean a lot of them. The director's cut has even more. There are so many monsters. Their designs are so intricate and so fascinating. And it has an entire society that they kind of set up and tee up for you to investigate more. And that kind of shit just doesn't feel like it really happens much anymore, where we get this movie that feels like a fully fleshed out universe that exists. And that kind of leads me to something that I was thinking when I was watching this. I was gonna say Hellraiser. Nightbreed would make a hell of a television show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't want any more television.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch TV very much anymore, just because it's too much to keep up with for me. I like to just watch my 2 hours and get out a lot, so I just watch my movies. But I feel like this would be one of those movies one of these TV shows where you could really, really dig into the meat.
I would agree.
Of this universe and explore what it really means to be a Nightbreed, and Midian before it is destroyed, and Baphomet, and all of that whole dynamic. I think you could make a hell of a television show out of this. They will never do it. The only people who would do it is someone like Shudder, but Shudder's not going to do it.
I hate
the money they put into Creepshow, they could fucking make this show.
I hate the idea of making more television, especially for like horror. I feel like I'm so sick of horror television. I feel like it's all fucking mundane, and shit just gets fucking dead on the tracks after like a season.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason shows like American Horror Story can be prolonged is it's a new story every season.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that lends itself easy to horror, especially anthology stuff. But
yeah,
for a television show for horror, like, you really have to have everything plotted out, or it's gonna feel so fucking stupid by the end of it. You're asking questions, why is this happening? I'm in 3 seasons, and you're gonna do some dumb shit like this. But at the same time, it'd be idiotic to say Nightbreed wouldn't be easily adaptable to television.
It would definitely have to focus and be a hybrid of genres. It would have to be, not just horror. It'd have to definitely lean into fantasy and action and stuff. Because like the type of horror television shows that I've watched and enjoyed are all hybrid shows.
Yeah. Stuff
like Buffy and Angel, where they're horror, I guess, but they're also, comedy. They also are action shows. But yeah, I think that it would be really cool to see a studio take a chance on making, if they're not going to make another Nightbreed movie or try this idea again, they should just, I think it'd be cool if they did a television show. I think it'd be really cool, but they won't do it because this is niche as fuck.
Yeah, it's super niche.
So, you could tell someone, hey, Clive Barker, the first thing you're gonna think of is Hellraiser. You can say, yeah, well, I watched this other movie he did. It's called Nightbreed. You're like, what the fuck is that? So,
and when we say niche as fuck, we mean to a general audience too. I mean, I'd say most horror fans know decently well about Nightbreed.
I've known about this movie for years. I just never sat down and watched it. I'm in a bunch of horror groups on Facebook, and I talk to people on Twitter a lot about horror, and Nightbreed comes up all the time. Yeah, it's a very, very big film within the community for good reason. Now that
no, for sure. I debate if I like it more than Hellraiser. I mean, I just saw it, but I would definitely say I like it more than Hellraiser so far.
Yeah, I'll say talking about it has definitely more solidified my thoughts on the movie, because I kind of deliberately didn't really say much to you about it because I wanted to do it on the podcast and talk about it here.
I literally just said to you it was incredible. Like, I loved it after I finished it. I had a good ambiance going on through it.
I think I just said, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was so fucking mad. I wanted to smack the fuck out of you.
I wasn't trying to be an ass.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I was like, okay. Like,
yeah, I wasn't trying to be a dick. I just didn't want to sit here and I didn't want to text you back and say, yeah, I'm not so sure about it.
I literally, because I don't get passionate about when I finish a movie. I'm just like, I could watch a movie and be like, I love it, but I don't need to talk about it right now. It's for later.
Yeah.
But when I finished that, I was like, that is fucking amazing what they did. I was so like left in awe. So I was like, it's incredible. And you're like, yeah, it's pretty good. I remember I looked over to my girlfriend and I said, I'm gonna beat the fuck out of Mike right now. I was so mad.
Yeah, no, I just didn't want to talk about it yet.
That's fine.
I mean, I literally had just finished it.
I don't
was
want to beat the fuck
processing
out of you anymore. It's okay. Like,
well, not any more than you usually do.
Come over.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to talk about it because I wasn't positive how I felt about it, and I wanted to have this be more organic on the podcast. I definitely did not mean for that to sound nearly as dismissive as it did.
No, it's all good, bro. I do it a lot too. I immediately after I got mad, I was like, there's so many times Mike says this was so great, and I'm just like, All right.
Yeah, I think I texted you Monsoon. I'm like, yeah, watch Monsoon. You're just actually you didn't even fucking respond to that. You're just like, yeah, it's on Netflix. Yeah, I'm not watching that.
You told me in person. It's okay. It's a little different.
Text you first though.
Oh, but
Ignored me, bro. Just ignored me.
get used to it. What the fuck? See, I would love to say I wish I watched this earlier. Like I would have liked to have gotten into it way earlier on and loved this movie, but I think this movie's way better watching it now. Like with the social climate and the political climate, you know, I'm not gonna get into it, but the movie feels like it was made to come out now.
Yeah.
It's on the level of being self-aware to current political times. You'd think fucking Spike Lee did it. Like I was so amazed when you have these fucking like town folk just charging in with their big fucking pickup trucks, just pushing out people that they think don't fucking fit the standard and they need to go, and I'm like, there is no fucking way. Like, yeah, everyone knows it's the joke about like, oh, a bunch of fucking hillbillies don't like new people, but like,
yeah, it's not just about hillbillies, because the whole point is that these people look different. Yeah. And they're afraid of that. It's like, yes, we know
out of their current area, they feel like they don't belong here.
Yeah.
It's not surprising, because it's not like these are issues that haven't been around for, I want to say hundreds of years, obviously, but like over like 20 to 50 years. These are not new thoughts.
Well, it's not like racism's been around for a very long time.
I'm speaking like specifically like this type of racism, where it's like
hillbillies,
like being immigration and stuff like that, things like that. Obviously, it's been around for hundreds of years in different areas, but I'm taking
for us
solely in this climate. Yeah, it just hits on a lot of notes being talked about nowadays to a point where you're like, I could see watching this in the 90s and really appreciating it, but I'd watch it and appreciate it way fucking more now. Like, this is the perfect time period to watch Nightbreed. And I always say at the end of every podcast, like, hey, please go check out this movie. Like, I think it's necessary to check this out now. To see this nowadays through the visions that we have to see on a day-to-day basis and the turmoil people are going through, watch this fucking movie and you'll be like, this came out in fucking 1990 and you're telling me all this shit? No way.
Yeah, I agree. Also, completely unrelated topic, but I was realizing while I was watching this that I'm 99% sure that this movie takes place in Canada.
Yeah, I think,
because I'm fairly certain they showed a shot of the city, and I think it's Toronto. I don't know why that really mattered to me. I was just like, I thought this was in America.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely filmed it in England though.
Yeah,
because like the cars, they're so on the right side, and and they're just like,
they showed that shot of Toronto. I'm like, that's interesting. I didn't know that was gonna happen. So we kind of
they say the name of the city in the movie in the very beginning.
Do they say Toronto? Because it definitely looked like Toronto.
I thought, that's gonna bug me. I think it was like something like fucking San Diego or some dumb shit. I could be totally wrong, but I think they mentioned it, and I was like, it's there.
IMDb usually tells you filming locations.
I just want to know where it says the movie's supposed to take place. I know it's in Midian. Eat my ass, dude.
Nightbreed was shot in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Okay.
As well as one of them was filmed in Wexham Park Hospital in Berkshire, the United Kingdom.
Yep.
But a lot of it was filmed on sound stages in Pinewood Studios. So part of it was filmed in America.
I just thought it was funny because of the cars.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you guys would just have random British cars just in America and just some fucking parking lot. You're like, yeah, hop in.
Yeah, that was at the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only place that they shot in England.
Not the hospital. It was at the hospital and the police station.
Oh, okay. So Cabal, it takes place, he says it definitively takes place in Alberta, but they filmed in Calgary, Bragg Creek, Drumheller, and Canmore. So it is supposed to take place in Canada, according to the book. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I must have fucked up that maybe it wasn't Toronto, but it looked. I don't know why. Like there was a structure, there's a needle. I was like, oh, that looks like the Toronto needle there, but it wasn't.
I just remember them mentioning.
Canadian audiences are screaming at me right now. They're just like, well, there's one of those there too. It's like, oh, fucking that dude. I'm an ignorant American.
It's okay. No one from Canada watches this.
Yeah, Germany does.
I know. Weird. That's
pretty
good.
Cool,
that's good.
Pretty cool though. Thanks for watching Germany.
Yeah, I don't know what to say besides like location isn't an afterthought, but like the city stuff doesn't play into much.
There's not much that really
afterwards.
happens in the city.
Yeah.
Because after a certain point, that's pretty much in Midian and the small town around Midian.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what city they were in because they spend like 20 minutes tops there.
Yeah.
I want to point out that like it's kind of crazy the like mix of kind of genres that this movie goes through. Not just because I know I talked a little bit about how like the finale has a lot of like just like big bombastic action.
Yeah.
But like the stuff at the beginning with Cronenberg, there's a whole sequence that's just a slasher sequence that's like really well directed and
Really well directed. I thought the exact same thing because the shots, like when she's opening the fridge and stuff. I'm watching it and I don't do it a lot, but I'm saying it out loud. I'm like, this is so fucking well shot. Like, this is a perfect slasher scene.
I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, he's gonna be around there. He's gonna be around there. And it's like he's not. I'm like, oh, what the fuck, bro? What the fuck's going on? And then when she gets fucking clobbered, he like cuts her across her face, dude. I was like, oh my god, this is really fucking bad. And that was finally, I was like, oh, he killed two not elderly, but older people, probably middle-aged people. And then he turns to the kid, and that's when I'm like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me, man.
The kid
and
has
they
the
reveal
single
he definitely
tear coming
kills
down his eye.
Yeah, and they reveal that he definitely kills the kid, and I'm like, oh my fucking god. Talk about making your primary antagonist
Piece of shit.
despicable.
Not likable at all.
I mean, we talked about it. I think it was maybe 2 episodes ago about how like you just don't kill kids in horror movies.
Yeah.
Or movies in general.
It was part 6. We had a big debate about like, is like Jason killing kids? Is it out of character, or are they just never gonna see it? Like.
Yeah, we talked about how like that shit just does not happen in movies a lot.
Yeah.
Especially now, like that's something that's kind of like you can kill literally anybody. Cannot kill a kid on screen, and they don't technically kill a kid on screen in the movie, but it's definitely like heavily implied like this motherfucker killed this kid.
They tell him. They say he's a child murderer.
I couldn't tell if they showed because they showed him all the photos. I wasn't really looking too much into the photos. I don't know if that's in there.
But when they talk about Boone being responsible, they say that he murdered a kid. They talk about him being a child murderer, which means that dude definitely killed a fucking kid.
Yeah, I just mean like I don't remember them in the photos showing a dead child. Thankfully,
I don't.
So good. Thank you for not doing that. But yeah, that sequence was really fucking good. And honestly, all this stuff with Cronenberg is awesome.
He's really good in the movie.
I love particularly no, it's not the gas station scene, but he goes and meets that like crazy old man who's petting his taxidermy dog.
Yeah.
And the whole like him tying him up and like torturing him or whatever. He gets so mad and frustrated, he just fucking stabs. He's like, oh god, yeah, that shit's ridiculous. This movie is just
one of those great needle drop moments too is when the main girl becomes friends with that girl at the bar, has a nice conversation. She's like, I'll bring you to the Midian. I don't fucking care. I don't got anything to do.
I'll go with you. You seem like a nice girl.
Yeah. And then she's like, oh, at the bar last night I met someone really nice. He's a great guy. He seems to really care about me and like me. Oh
yeah.
And then she's like, oh, Curtis, what are you doing here? And it's the fucking psychiatrist. And you go,
yeah.
Fuck.
I went, no fucking way.
Fuck.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, come on, man, don't do this. She's such a nice girl. Don't do that. And then she's pinned to the fucking tree. I'm like, god damn it.
When I was watching the movie and I saw her, I was like, is that the mom from Malcolm in the Middle? It's not.
Is it?
It looks like her. Like if she was, because it came in '90s, so it'd be like a few years, like maybe 7 to 10 years before Malcolm in the Middle started. So I'm like, it could definitely be her. It is not, though. You know who is an actor from a recurring film that you've seen before is the cop.
The sheriff or the
no.
inspector?
The good cop, the inspector. You know who he is?
The whole time I was sitting there looking, I'm like, I fucking know who you are.
So I thought it was from like a horror film I've seen him before, and I was like, you definitely been in a horror film I've seen. It's not. You know what he's from?
What?
Phantom Menace. He's the captain.
Oh! Yep. I knew him from somewhere.
Wild.
He's the captain of the fucking Queen's Guard. Yeah, when I saw him, like, I fucking know you from somewhere, dude. I don't know why I know you, but I know you.
Yeah, I had to look it up. I'm like, dude, it's gonna bug me if I don't figure it out.
9 years before.
Yep, learned his craft.
Didn't age a day.
He looks older in Nightbreed than he does in Phantom Menace.
Oh really? I don't remember. I remember him looking pretty fucking young in both.
He looks pretty young in Phantom Menace, I think.
Oh, like that glossy George Lucas filter.
Yeah, everyone looks very fucking glossy in those movies.
Yeah, even though the first one's filmed on film, they still look glossy. Oh man, yeah, this movie's crazy.
What's a negative that you consider from the film, though, if any you could find? I have one I feel is a bit of a negative.
I mean, we kind of discussed it. Like, I'm a little bit torn on the ending with the girl kind of stabbing herself and forcing him.
That's my big thing. It is forcing the situation. It's tough to build a romance where you're being forced into doing what the other person wants to do. Like,
Yeah,
it wasn't
like
it wasn't Boone or Cabal's choice. Like,
yeah, but at the same time, though, they kind of, like he does it, they're together and then seem happy. So it's like, is it like strong arming, or is it just giving him the push that he needed?
yeah, I'm not saying it's
I don't
morally
know.
wrong. I'm just saying like it left a weird taste in my mouth.
It felt really weird when she stabbed herself. I was just like, okay.
It seems like that shit when you try to break up with a girlfriend. You're like, it's just not working, and she just goes like, "What if I just kill myself right now?" And you go, "Whoa." I just said it's not working. I didn't say your life won't be working. Fucking calm down.
Chill, bro. Chill, bro. I mean, I guess sometimes the cops get a little bit too cartoonish.
Oh fuck! When he goes to the jail cell, I'm like, this shit.
The gun guy makes me laugh really hard, though.
What guy?
The armory guy.
Oh.
Whipping out all the guns and showing him like, yeah, bro, I got this fucking G3A3. Cocks the guy. He's like, yeah, he's got all this.
Yeah, they
he
got a lot
rattles
of
off
fucking
all this
weapons at this regular ass small town sheriff's department.
Motherfucker whips up the cops show up with a fucking rocket launcher. I'm like,
it's
what?
not even a fucking cop. It's a random fucking redneck douchebag. Cause he launches the rocket launcher at one of the fucking guys, and I'm like, where the fuck did you get that, bro? Like, I know that we don't pass out gun permits in Florida as much as we should, but like, you did not fucking get that from anybody.
Canada's wild, bro. This shit's wild.
So fucking.
I didn't know you could have a fucking bazooka in Canada. Fucking ridiculous. But I like the armor guy because he's really funny. Like him rattling off all the gun information, being like all self-masturbatory about it. That's really funny. As a kind of like a commentary on gun culture, it's really funny. But a lot of cops, like the one you're talking about in the jail cell who like beats the shit out of him or all that stuff and brings the father in. I mean, honestly, the sheriff, like I like the sheriff as a villain, but he does get a little bit cartoonish a lot. A lot.
He's just like, I hate him. I hate them all. I don't know what they are, but I fucking hate them. It's like,
I mean, it works by the end.
Aren't like that, but it just comes off very like one-dimensional.
He's got a fucking gold tooth and shit. Like,
yeah.
Like at the end, it does find it like kind of smooth out and it works fine with him. Yeah. But some of the interactions he has, especially with Boone in the jail cell, I'm just like,
it's so fucking.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Chill the fuck out. Chill out, guys. We got to take this down like 3 notches. This is a little bit too much. I'm not saying like the movie's been subtle or anything about its opinions on the Nightbreeds and how the Nightbreeds are an allegory for racism and that the cops are being racist. Yeah, like it's not being subtle about any of that, but at the same time, like it does kind of cross that line into a little bit too over the top a couple times.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that like, hey, we should paint these cops as good people, but like,
no,
paint them.
Just tone the performance down.
I'd say paint it more realistically. Like, showcase their pieces of shit, but not like fucking 8th grade bully pieces of shit, where it's like, okay, they're just all fucking super dumb and super douchey. Like, the more real you make a threat like that feel, especially for like a police force, the more you can understand like, well, this is why people don't trust them. It
being a police force, like you kind of just hit on that. It being a police force also makes it way too real for today.
Oh, 100%. That's
way too fucking
in the
real.
Police force, like getting people that share their viewpoints to also enforce the law. There's so much shit in this movie where it's like, it's wild to think that this is just so topical. And yeah, like I've said, like you said multiple times, like these aren't new issues. It's just like the extremes that they go to in this movie feel like an extreme that is going to happen soon. Regardless of where you fall politically or anything, like it's just the situations brought in the movie shed a lot of light on a lot of real life subjects nowadays, and it's unbelievable how easily to compare it really is.
Yeah, it's very obvious. I just wish, like I said, I just wish they toned down the performances a little bit because they're just getting really super
100%. I wish, because they try to make all the other antagonists feel very like real. Like obviously the Nightbreed that's an asshole and that causes Boone to become a Nightbreed. He's fucking wild. He's like a little wild card, but he's different. He's not really an antagonist as much as just like a thorn in the side. So him being crazy is fine. But the police, like, especially because by the end of the film, they're another primary antagonist. Like, they're sharing the antagonistic role with the psychiatrist. And if they're going to be at that level, like, and committing genocide, don't make them just feel like fucking hokey cartoon villains. Like, make them feel like viably bad. Give them motive that makes them feel fucking vindictive. Besides just, I'm not saying the motive of just like, we don't like different people. That's good. But don't play it up like it's a fucking ham factor.
Yeah, I agree.
That is a negative. To me, the only other negative I can think of is more like a, from my viewpoint, what I would have liked out of the movie. It's not a negative on the film's part, but the way they build up Boone having dreams of Midian and clearly seeing the girl who's like the porcupine girl.
Yep.
And he talks about, like, I've seen her in my dreams, and she says, oh, I've seen him in my dreams. I wish they built more with that character and had her more involved in the movie. Because it seems like they talk a lot about her, or they show her a lot. And then
she's a very prominent image for the film.
Yeah, and then after they meet, it's just like, oh, she has one scene at the end. It's like, oh, well, that's kind of a letdown. I thought it would have been like a love triangle between her and like the main girl. I thought that would have been a little bit more interesting.
It doesn't feel tasteless, but the way that two principal female characters in this movie use their bodies to distract men.
Yeah.
Because obviously the girl with Babette does that at the police station to break Boone out, but also the porcupine girl does too.
I don't dislike the scene with the smoke girl.
I was not expecting it, I'll tell you that much.
I would have just liked her to not cause the death by a kiss. I think that's a little too indulgent.
A little on the nose, yeah.
That's like, oh, it's like poison ivy. It's like, yeah.
I did kind of like the effect though, with the smoke coming out of the mouth.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
The porcupine one, I'm fine with that shit.
That shit was fire.
That shit was awesome. And women using what they have to not only distract men, but cause it to be, like, meet their end, like...
Yeah, she's ostensibly protecting herself.
Yeah,
by distraction. Yeah.
Like, if you want to use sexuality as a weapon, fucking do it. That's cool.
And it's not filmed in a way where it feels like we're leering at anybody. Like,
no.
It feels pretty respectful.
We know what it's being used for, so
yeah.
Contextually, there's no weirdness to it, really.
Yeah.
So I like that.
I appreciate that stuff.
I just would have wished that porcupine girl had more impact on the film.
More to do.
Maybe having a love triangle would have been a bit overdone. You know, it's done a million times. But I just feel like the way she's brought up in the beginning of the film, the part should have at least been a little bit bigger or have more impact.
Yeah. I think it's kind of wild because the synopsis for this movie is very misleading.
Oh, yeah, what's the synopsis?
I don't know what it is verbatim, but they're saying, you know, like, oh, Aaron, you know, Boone goes to Midian and meets people of the Nightbreed, and he's framed for murder by the psychiatrist, and the people, like the Nightbreed people of Midian, help him get revenge. Like, only 2 of them help him.
Yeah.
Like, the rest of them don't. Like,
I think the coolest thing
is kind of misleading, and they don't really discuss anything about the whole in the synopsis. They don't talk about the town and how the people of Nightbreed have been persecuted. They don't talk about any. I mean, like, it's a synopsis. It's not a whole fucking like a story breakdown, but it leaves what the movie really is about out of it. Like, it really isn't about. I mean, it's the inciting incident that causes the movie to really be the way it is, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, the story isn't really about Boone getting revenge on the psychiatrist, although it's a component of it. It's a very important part of his arc.
It's the first act of it, really.
Yeah,
but that's so. After you learn about Midian, things change drastically.
I think that's what threw me off, because when I read that synopsis, I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. You know, he goes out to the cemetery and chills out with these fucking monsters, and then they take revenge on David Cronenberg, and they figure out how to you know, get Boone off the hook. The movie's not at all about that. No. That's kind of the crazy thing. So I think that's what threw me off when I was watching it. I'm like, we get to Midian, the movie completely changes from what I was expecting this movie to be. And I think that's probably what threw me off. Like, oh, this is a completely different movie than what I was sold by the synopsis.
I think it changes more so not just when they get to Midian, but after he dies. Like,
yeah.
You know, the doctor is in charge of everything. He's lying behind the scenes. He's fooling people. And as a regular type of film, you'd say, I really want to be able to prove that Boone is innocent. At the end of the movie, you don't fucking care, because you don't care about that world anymore. You care about what he's going to do in Midian. We know he's not. We know he's innocent, but we know the general public will never see him as innocent. But what the fuck does that matter anymore?
Well, the whole point now, though, is that he's no longer Boone. He's
It's
Cabal.
Cabal, yeah.
So he is innocent.
So it's
'Cause he's
just
not
funny
that
to
person
think,
anymore.
like, if at the end of the film, for most films, you'd want to say, like, it's bullshit they didn't make him innocent, or the people don't know that he didn't commit these acts. But in this film, you don't even give a fuck about that by the end of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive, really, with the way the movie paces out and just changes all the topics. It's like, hey, I don't even fucking care what people think about him anymore. He's a busy man.
He's busy being Moses. Yeah. I really think that kind of twisted my experience watching it. And now that we're talking about it, it definitely has helped me kind of articulate what I feel about the movie and also realize, what I like about it and what I don't like about it. But I like the idea of what that synopsis sells, but I like the world that this version of the movie gives you.
I wonder if the synopsis is more closely linked to the original theatrical version.
Maybe. The theatrical version takes out like a shit ton of stuff with Baphomet and the Nightbreed people, so they don't have as much of a connection, and it just winds up being kind of a coincidence that everything converges at Midian.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
I can't comment on it.
That was the synopsis for the director's cut on Shudder, so I was like,
doesn't
weird.
change anything then. Still very misleading.
Yeah. Unless they just, maybe they just copy pasted. Maybe there wasn't a synopsis written for the director's cut. I don't know.
You gonna end up getting the Blu-ray for this movie?
Yeah, I'm gonna get it for sure. It also, because mostly, not gonna lie, look, I'll definitely want to watch this again, but also because it comes with a 75-minute documentary about the movie. Kind of funny.
Immediately
Letterboxd
after.
only has the theatrical cut as an option to review, and it has the documentary from the Blu-ray as an option to review too, but they don't have the director's cut. That fucking annoys me, because now I have to put like a star as a director's cut, not this trash.
Yeah, that makes sense. After I watched the movie,
immediately.
I immediately added it to my Amazon cart.
Yeah, it's in. I think it's in my save for later right now, because I was gonna buy it to watch the movie, and then I'm just like, well, it's too late now. I'm just gonna watch it on Shudder, because I wanted to watch it on the Blu-ray so then I can watch the documentary and then I can be informed more, but it's too late. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get the Blu-ray. I know that there's multiple different companies that did a Bluray for this, because Scream Factory did a Blu-ray for this, but
Scream Factory is the one that I have in my cart.
Yeah, well, they had I think they had an Arrow one before, but it's gone.
The Arrow one is Region B.
Oh, is it?
I looked at it because I'm like, oh, there's a Nightbreed one for Arrow, and it's like, it's Region B. It's not for us.
I used to be such a fanboy for Scream Factory Blu-rays. Like, I still buy them, obviously. Like, I still like them a lot, but Arrow's way better.
I like Arrow's presentation better.
I like the box. Like, when you get the limited edition versions of them with the box and the poster and all that shit, it's way better. Shit
I just
different.
like the Arrow logo and how it comes like with all the colors on and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
I think the way it's designed is just more appealing to me.
They also don't lie and call things collector's editions when it barely has any editions of special features
they do.
or anything. Do they really? I haven't really thought anything.
It's not like lying about it. It's just like, you should never make a movie that is a regular Blu-ray case and call it a collector's edition. I'm sorry, like, you could have a million bonus features, and I love that shit, but, like, it feels so plain. Like, if I bought... Yeah. I'm gonna look like a fucking asshole. I don't give a fuck. You know what? I don't give a fuck. If I bought this fucking Godzilla, and it's like, hey, yeah, it's a regular figure, cool. Buy figure arts, nice. This is the regular fucking figure. It's not a collector's item just because it's expensive. It's expensive because I'm stupid and I deserve pain. But yeah, if you have this with a bunch of fucking other special shit and it's a limited quantity, that is a collector's edition. That's a collector's item. If you're just gonna make a regular fucking Blu-ray case that's the same as any other Blu-ray case you can get at fucking, like, I don't know, Best Buy, that like, oh, my case is broken, I can go switch it out, and there's nothing else coming with it, do not call it a collector's edition. That bugs me. I want more presentation. I want a fucking box. I want something else with it. Not that
I think that's
bonus features aren't important. They are super important and they make a big difference, but that's just a regular edition. I'm sorry.
I think it's kind of funny because Arrow usually they classify theirs by like the ones with the boxes are the limited editions.
Eat my
and then
fucking ass.
The singular releases are special editions. They're not collector's edition. But every single Scream Factory Blu-ray that gets released is a collector's edition. And the only way that it's really a collector's edition, by most people's definitions, is if you buy it directly from them within a certain period of time and you get like a lithograph of it.
It's stupid. Say collector's edition. Just don't do it.
Yeah. That's kind of the things I think it says that on the Nightbreed Blu-ray, and I'm like,
It does. I don't
is
know
it
if
though?
does. It says
It-
Nightbreed the director's cut. I don't know if it says collector's edition or not.
I can't remember, but I know they sometimes swap it out, and they have like the exact same like layout for their cases, but they'll swap it out instead of it being collector's edition at the top. It'll say Blu-ray DVD or
Just
Blu-ray
give me
DVD.
a fucking different case. Make it look special. Like that's it. Like, if
Yeah.
you do that, it's enough for making you say like, oh, it's a different box. It's a different thing. It's a collector's edition. Whatever. Cool.
I wish Scream Factory would stop using blue Blu-ray cases. I wish they would use clear ones. They look really nice on the Friday set.
Yeah, they do. It helps that Friday has all black posters though.
Yeah.
I'm sure Clear would look shit with some like other posters on it.
For the Halloween one, they did all black cases. It's pretty cool.
Arrow does Clear.
Like Criterion does clear too.
Do the red ones again, like Terminator and fucking Mad Max.
Those are like HD DVDs, bro.
Have Nickelodeon make one and just have the green slime ones.
Just orange. They're VHSs.
Oh yeah, like the bricks.
Yeah, the old VHS tapes. I had
Uh.
Blue's Clues VHS tapes as a child, and they were pure orange. Hey, you couldn't miss them.
No. I think we've kind of dwindled down on what we could talk about if we're now discussing Rugrats and Blue's Clues. So,
True.
you have any
Actually,
final
I mean,
thoughts?
It's kind of like a very very like singular point, but I really like the psychiatrist's design.
Yes.
His mask a lot. I like it a lot.
I was
Also, like,
disappointed
he
at
has-
first.
He has fucking enormous knives for like no fucking reason. Like they're enormous.
I was at first disappointed that it wasn't a Nightbreed. It was just the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
It's still just as interesting, even if it isn't a fucking creature.
Having it when he's talking to people with the mask on, like he's almost kind of a different person because he has much more energy to him.
Yeah.
Like he's hiding behind the mask and he can be more. It's kind of like an inverse of like a superhero. It's like, hey, I put this mask on and I can be more confident. So it's like he's using his own psychology for himself. He's like, I put a mask on and I can hide my not hide my sociopathic tendencies, but I can have more charisma because I'm not reserving my emotion nearly as much. Particularly in that scene with the guy at the with his taxidermy dog. That shit just had me transfixed. I just really like that character in general. I haven't seen David Cronenberg act in a lot of shit.
Yeah.
He's a director.
Usually just cameos. He doesn't really.
He does
act.
cameos in his movies, but he doesn't like this is like a full-on role.
Yeah.
And like he was really good in this.
Yeah, I loved him in it.
So I'm sure he acts in other shit, but
I
I've
looked.
never seen
There wasn't
it.
a whole lot though. I looked it up for the filmography for him after the movie.
yeah, he should appear in more shit. He's really good.
Final thoughts, man.
Yeah, Nightbreed's really good, and it's really refreshing to watch a movie like this where it's not just, an effects picture, which obviously it is an effects picture, but it's nice to have a movie where it feels like it has more on its mind and it's trying to accomplish more than just kind of scare the pants off you. It's creating a whole entire universe for you to investigate, and I guess in your mind, because there's nothing else to investigate it with. There's no other materials. I guess you can read the book. It's a great looking movie. The effects are fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. The monsters look incredible, and the finale is just a hoot. It's not a movie that like I when I was initially watching it, I was like, yeah, this is just an amazing movie. I need to watch this again soon. But luckily, talking about it with you has definitely made me understand my feelings on the movie a lot more. I really enjoyed this movie. Is it going to supplant something like Hellraiser for me as far as like things I enjoy for Clive Barker? I don't know. I really like Hellraiser. Coincidentally, another movie I saw for the first time with you. But yeah, I don't know. I can tell you what, I'm glad we watched this because this was definitely one of the cooler experiences I've had on the podcast so far. That's a new experience. It's like this and Phantom are like two of my favorite like new experiences. And Nosferatu, obviously.
I think Nosferatu's just easier to expect to have a good time. You know what I mean? It's surprising.
It's a movie that everyone tells you is a masterpiece, and you got to enjoy it.
Yeah, and
like this is a movie no one talks about outside of the genre.
Yeah.
People outside of the horror genre talk about Nosferatu because it affects all film. But it's kind of wild to watch a movie like this where it's still very niche outside of its genre fans. So this is definitely a cool new experience.
Yeah. For my final thoughts, I'd say it's easily my favorite watch that we've done on the podcast for a film I haven't seen before, or just like, watching American Werewolf is fantastic every time. Watching Any Evil Dead is fantastic every time. But but I know what I'm getting at the end of the day because I love the films. I've seen them a million times.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to expect. I loved the first Hellraiser. It's one of my favorite horror films, especially of the decade. But that doesn't mean I'm going to love this movie. I like Hellraiser 2 a lot too, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the same exact thing. Not only is Nightbreed so radically different than what Clive Barker is known for Hellraiser, this world he set up is so vast with the ideas you could put into it, and you could just really just sit down and want to delve even deeper and deeper. And it's so interesting, and you can see how it inspires so many other filmmakers like Tim Burton especially.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it sucks I haven't seen it earlier, but at the same time I really am happy I watched it now. It's so topical for all the things it discusses nowadays. It hits on a lot of feelings for people that don't know where their place in life is, and it's a great movie for someone learning about how they want to transition forward with who they are. And it really is just the perfect type of film for any type of outsider in any aspect, and just wanting to make a difference but also feel like they have a place in the world. I think the movie did a fantastic job. I love it. I wish more people would watch it. Definitely this version. I haven't seen the theatrical, so maybe that is good too. Maybe that's not rightfully shit on. I don't know. But I had a fantastic time watching it. There's not many films I hop out and immediately say this was incredible. I loved every second of it. It really does change my expectations for what's going to happen almost every 20 minutes. I never knew what was happening next scene, and I thought that was so amazing. Besides, obviously, like, oh, this structure has to follow this. We know how it goes, blah, blah, blah. But there's so many curveballs that just hit out of nowhere, and I'm like, wow. I am genuinely impressed with the storytelling in this film.
Yeah.
So, not only would I say I would like people to watch it more, I implore you to check this film out. I thought it was awesome. And, yeah, I'm not saying it's a better film than Hellraiser. I'm saying it's right up there for my interest. I could not believe what Barker is able to really develop with two totally different sides of the coin. So
Barker's a genius. Straight up.
Please check this film out. Tell us what you think about it. I hope you also have a great time. Maybe you're not a fan of it. Who knows? Don't talk to me if you're not, though. I don't tell you. So that's all for this episode. We'll catch you later then. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.